Hey there, how you doing? This is Coach Carvel Bailey, and in today's video, we're going to talk about Marcus Smart. In today's video, let's talk about Mr. Marcus Smart. I know a lot of reports came out about after the game and chairs being thrown and, you know, Marcus Smart leaving out the locker room, going to the bathroom and using explicit language and all of those things. And I want to make this video because people are already starting to vilify him, like bad teammate. You know, this isn't somebody that you want on your team. So I want to be able to help not only the players kind of understand what's going on, but I also want to be able to help the coaches to also know what type of players you may have in your locker room and really be able to understand them and their language so that you can then be able to communicate with them and their preference of communication styles, if that makes sense. And then I also want to help the parents, because a lot of times the parents think that, you know, they may not know and they may condone a certain behavior or they may vilify someone for that behavior. And so I just want to make it all make sense from my point of view. Again, I'm Coach Carvel Bailey's point of view about Mr. Marcus Smart. First of all, we have to understand that Marcus Smart is a winner, right? Marcus Smart is a winner. First and foremost, before we get into it, Marcus Smart is a winner. And so we also have to understand that although Marcus Smart is determined, Marcus Smart is driving, right? Marcus Smart comes off maybe sometimes is angry, but he's really aggressive, right? And so angry and aggressive are two totally different things, right? Being driving and being determined, right? That's different than, you know, being like a deadbeat or someone that causes problems in your locker room. So I believe that Marcus Smart is probably misunderstood, especially from the outside, because he is all about, like, because he is a winner and he's all about getting the job done, right? And I would call Marcus Smart pilot, right? Someone who is concerned with the big goal. Does that make sense? And so, right, like pilots, they get on an airplane, right? They get in the cockpit, they get on an airplane, they want to take off and they want to land. They're worried about taking action and they want to be able to get things done. They want to complete whatever the mission is. That's what Marcus Smart does. That's why teams like him, because or right, teams that he plays for likes him, be it Oklahoma State, be it Boston Celtics, and teams that he doesn't play for, why they don't like him, because he is that person that you love to have on your team, but you really don't want to play against. So let me break this down for you. All right, I just kind of gave you some of the characteristics about Marcus Smart: driving, determined, you know, very aggressive, likes to be concerned with the big picture, right? And oftentimes he can be emotional, and like he just wants straight hard facts, right? Like, let's get it done, let's not make excuses, let's have straight hard facts. So now that you understand some characteristics of an individual like Marcus Smart, and if you have them on your team, you can better, you know, relate to them and not think that they're a bad seed on the team. I remember when I was a dean back at Orr Academy here in Chicago, and I used to have college coaches call me about the coach's son, and they used to say, like, what's wrong with him? You know, he, you know, seems angry, gets into it with his teammates, and I'm like, no, like, he's a competitor. But now that I understand, right, this particular individual was also a pilot, right? He was also concerned with the big picture, just winning. Let's do whatever it takes to win. So again, Marcus Smart. First of all, Marcus Smart is the longest tenured Boston Celtic currently on the roster. All right, so that means that he's doing something right for an organization like Boston Celtics to keep him on the roster, right? So he's the longest tenured Celtic on the roster, right? We're going back talking about Marcus Smart being a winner, right? I got my notes right here. I'm gonna break them down for you. In 2012, Marcus Smart was labeled by ESPN the #1 shooting guard in the country in 2012. #1 shooting guard in the country, and he was the number 10 player overall in the country. Number 10 player overall. He has a FIBA World Championship gold medal for 18U and 19U. He was all Big 12 first team. He was third team All-American. He was the Big 12 Player of the Year in 2013. He was the Big 12 Freshman of the Year in 2012. He was a McDonald's All-American. Let's see, All-Rookie Team. He was nominated by the NABC, National Association of Basketball Coaches, being the third team All-American. He was on the All-Rookie Team, as well as the 2-time All-Defensive Team. So now that you have a little bit information on Marcus Smart, right? He's just not out there just taking up time. He's out there for a purpose, and he's leaving his mark each and every game that he plays. Does that make sense? So now the Boston Celtics lose. The longest tenured Celtic in the organization. And they were up as much as 18 in the first half, and they blew an 18-point lead, and they lost the game. And now, after the game, the longest tenured Celtic is emotional because he's determined, right? He's very driving, and he can be aggressive, right? That's his behavior characteristic, right? That's kind of his personality style. That's the way that he communicates. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's a bad person, but up 18 and you lose the lead, you lose the game, you go down 2-0, and now you go on the road, even though you're in the same vicinity, right? But now you go on the road, so he's still thinking big picture. We're down 2-0. Now we have to go get 2 on the road, or at least 1 on the road, to keep this a series. Now we have to fight each and every game, right? Each and every possession. So Marcus Smart deserves to be upset. He deserves to be upset because obviously when he came to the Celtics, they were coming off of, right, like still with a pretty good team, championship level style caliber team, new coach and all, new GM and all those things. But they blew an 18-point lead. He's a competitor. He wants to win. So while other players may be just taking off their shoes, fake hustle, fake pouting, you ever had players after a game and they fake pouting, but they're really not upset? The same way that people talked about Joel Embiid because he cried last year because he lost, it meant something. I'm making this video because I want for my athletes, I want for my coaches, I want for my parents to understand that just because it means something to an individual doesn't mean that they're a bad person. We need more people like Marcus Smart that it means something. It means something to them to be able to say something, to be able to hold somebody accountable. That's what pilots do. That's what individuals like Marcus Smart do, right? Right? The pilot is going to hold you accountable. Don't take your seatbelt off. Don't get out your seat because right now is not the time, because we need to fly through this turbulence so that we can get where we need to go. And that's what Marcus Smart was explaining yesterday. But now people are saying maybe he's a bad person. He's a bad teammate. They're not saying that when he's taking charges, when he's throwing his body, on the ground for his team to get a loose ball, or diving in the stands, or getting a rebound, or being shooting guard that also doubles as a power forward on his team, right? Marcus Smart plays the 1 through the 5 during his tenure with Boston Celtics. He's played the 1 through the 5. So that means that he's a good teammate, but that also means he's all about winning. And so to blow an 18-point lead, you are right. He is pissed, and he should be. And for any individual that was in the locker room that did not have the same mentality as he did, that's the issue. Whoever was in the locker room that did not have the same mentality, did not feel the same way that he did, that's the issue. And so because Marcus Smart is a professional and he's now holding people accountable, and I said again, he's emotional, right? So now it looks as though he's being overly aggressive, but that's just the way that he communicates. Does that make sense? So oftentimes coaches have players in their locker room and think that they're a bad person because of the way that they communicate. We all know, right? Michael Jordan was a pilot also. Kobe Bryant was a pilot also. We've seen these types of videos where Kobe Bryant goes off on a team, or where Michael Jordan has went off on one of his teammates, probably punched somebody, right? It doesn't mean that they're a bad teammate, and it may not mean that they were right at that particular time, but you have to understand that they're a driving individual and they're about getting results, period, point blank. Boston Celtics did not get results last night, right? For the most part, because the Miami Heat is an amazing team, and I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later. So make sure that you search and find that video, right? Wherever you're seeing this, make sure that you stay antennas up for that video talking about the Miami Heat and the great job that they did last night. But talking about Marcus Smart, is no need to get mad at Marcus Smart. There's no need to talk about Marcus Smart. He's not a bad teammate. None of that. Marcus Smart cares. And we need more individuals playing, coaching, and watching the game that really care. Oftentimes the fans care more about the game than the athletes. But if he threw a chair, if he said a profane word, if he talked about somebody, if he held them accountable, if he talked about the system, whatever it may be, guess what? Marcus Smart can deserve, and Marcus Smart deserves to speak his opinion. Because I also saw Marcus Smart take a charge last night, put his body on the line. Does that make sense? So those people that aren't doing anything can't really complain. But those individuals that are doing all that they can for the success of the goal, they deserve to feel a certain way when other individuals are not stepping up to the challenge. So hey, I salute Marcus Smart, right? I wish that we had more Marcus Smarts out there, right? I wish that we had more Marcus Smarts out there. And people forget, right? 2014, Oklahoma State, right? Because Marcus Smart left Oklahoma State after his sophomore year, after he was suspended for 3 games for shoving a Texas Tech fan, which was if you remember that, I remember watching the game. But if you go back and probably YouTube it or search it, also subscribe to my YouTube channel, Coach Carvel Bailey, right? But if you YouTube this, Marcus Smart sprinted back on defense, right? Got a defensive stop, even though it was a foul, tripped, fell in the crowd, got up, shoved an individual. Marcus Smart said the individual called him a racial slur. Come to find out that individual is a long-term Texas Tech fan that has been heckling athletes for probably decades, right? And it was said that he called Marcus Smart a profane name, and then Marcus Smart reacted, right? Marcus Smart like, look, I'm playing the game, you watch the game, the coaches coach the game, the officials officiate the game. Everybody stay in their own lane. But now when you come into my lane, we have a whole lot of heckling fans and all those things. But again, because he was doing everything he could to stop the play, and then his emotions, right? And oftentimes those pilots may think or may act before they think. And even though Marcus Smart was wrong, right? Was wrong for pushing the fan, but we also have to understand, right, what kind of led to it and what was going on with that. But Marcus Smart has always been, right, a fiery, emotional type of guy. Always been that way. So again, I don't think he was wrong for his rant yesterday. And I don't even think that maybe he should have went about it a different way. I'm not saying that. What I am saying though is this: if he put in the work, he deserves to have a say-so, or to say something about what's not working, right? If he's putting in the work, he has the right to have a say-so or say something about things that are not working, especially when they were up 18 and blew that lead. All right, so this is Coach Carvel Bailey. I'm out of here. Took you to Marcus Smart School. I hope you understand a little bit more about Marcus Smart. And I'm a Boston Celtics fan, right? But I'm liking them Miami Heat right now because they got a team. They have a team of players that, like, everybody passed over, right, for the most part. And I'm talking, right, growing up. Boston Celtics does too, but that's a whole nother story. Anyway, if this made sense to you, right, share this video. Share this video so more people will understand and even be able to understand the language, you know, just some of the small things that I broke down to you about players like Marcus Smart, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, right? And even like Dame Lillard, right? But understand that, because you probably have one or more of those athletes on your team, and people are telling you, coaches, that they're a bad seed. They may not be a bad seed. You just have to be able to know how to communicate with them, right? And if you need my help with being able to do that, then let's sit down, let's have a conversation. I can give you a brief questionnaire that'll help you to understand not only your communication preferences, but also how you can better communicate and understand your players, and help them become successful by administering and implementing their strengths, if that makes sense. All right, so this is Coach Carvel Bailey. Last but not least, if you haven't had a chance to go check out my free training where I break down to parents of struggling or underrecruited student athletes of how they can help their student athlete find the right fit for them, then go check out my free training at b2bsdhoopsmastery.com. And then from that point, if you need me and my team's help implement anything for you or your athlete, then just reach out to us. All right, Coach Carvel Bailey. Peace.